The lecture hall fell silent as the doors hissed open with a pneumatic whoosh that seemed to echo through every corner of the massive auditorium. Professor Velkara, a six-armed Zenthari with scales that shimmered like oil on water, stopped mid-sentence, her datapad nearly slipping from her primary grip. General Cale Thornridge stood in the doorway, his dress uniform bearing the 5 silver stars of the Galactic Coalition's highest military rank. Behind him, 3 heavily armed guards took position, their presence turning the academic atmosphere into something far more serious. Every student in Advanced Military Strategy 401 sat frozen, their various appendages, tentacles, and limbs locked in place. Every student except Adeline Martinez, who continued typing notes on her holographic interface, her dark eyes focused on finishing her thought before looking up. "General Thornridge," Professor Velkara's voice carried the tremor of someone who had just watched their worst nightmare materialize. "This is unexpected. How may we— Where's the student who corrected my tactics?" The general's voice cut through the air like a plasma blade through butter. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Correcting a general's tactics wasn't just academic disagreement, it was career suicide. It was the kind of thing that got you blacklisted from every military position in the coalition. It was the kind of thing that would be me, sir." Adeline stood, her petite frame somehow commanding despite being dwarfed by the towering Velcrosian students around her. Her human features remained calm, almost defiant. Charlie Morrison, sitting 2 rows behind her, felt his stomach drop. He'd warned her. After she'd published that analysis of the Battle of Kepler 442b on the Student Military Forum, he'd practically begged her to take it down. But Adeline never backed down from what she believed was right, even when right was pointing out how Earth's highest-ranking military officer had miscalculated fleet positioning during humanity's most celebrated victory. The general's boots clicked against the polymer floor as he descended the auditorium steps. Each footfall seemed to count down to Adeline's expulsion, or worse. The other students pressed themselves against their seats, trying to disappear. "You're the human who claimed my victory at Kepler 442b was tactically fortunate rather than strategically sound?" General Thornridge stopped 3 meters from Adeline, his weathered face unreadable. "Yes, sir. Though I also noted that your adaptive response to the Velcrosian surprise attack showed remarkable improvisation under pressure." Adeline's voice didn't waver. Charlie closed his eyes. Only Adeline would try to soften a criticism by adding another criticism wrapped as a compliment. "You stated that my flanking maneuver was unnecessarily risky and that I gambled human lives on an assumption about enemy response patterns." The general's jaw tightened. "That's correct, sir. The simulation models I ran suggested a 68% probability of catastrophic losses if the Velcrosian commander had committed his reserve fleet as doctrine suggested. You assumed he wouldn't, and you were right. But assumption isn't strategy." The silence that followed could have suffocated a star. Professor Velkara looked like she was calculating how to disavow any knowledge of having admitted this insane human into her program. Then General Thornridge did something nobody expected. He smiled. "Cadet Martinez, do you know why you're still a student and I'm a general?" "No, sir." "Because you ran simulations." He pulled out a holo projector, and a 3-dimensional battle map bloomed in the air between them. "I was there. I saw Commander Velthrak hesitate when his scouts reported our troop carrier signatures. I noticed his formation tightened when it should have spread. I recognized his ship, the Endless Hunger, and I'd studied every battle he'd fought for 20 years. I knew he'd lost his clutch brother at Proxima, and that he fought with anger, not patience." The general manipulated the hologram, showing the battle from new angles. "You're absolutely right that by-the-book tactics would have been safer, and you're absolutely right that I gambled. But strategy isn't just mathematics and probability curves, cadet. It's psychology. It's history. It's reading your enemy's soul in real time and making the choice that probability says is wrong but intuition says is right. Adeline stared at the battle map, her analytical mind racing through the new information. I came here because you're the first person in 5 years to actually critique my tactics instead of just praising them, the general continued. The coalition needs officers who can think, not just follow doctrine. But you need to understand the difference between the simulation and the reality. He minimized the hologram and looked directly at Adeline. How many combat missions have you flown, cadet? None, sir. I'm a second-year strategy student. And therein lies the problem and the potential. General Thornridge turned to address the entire class, his voice carrying the weight of authority. Every single one of you has access to more computing power than my entire fleet did at Kepler 442b. You can run 1 million simulations before breakfast, but when you're in the black, with plasma fire melting your hull and your crew looking to you for impossible answers, all those simulations become background noise. He turned back to Adeline. But that doesn't mean your analysis is worthless. It means it's incomplete. Lieutenant Commander Shaw, step forward. One of the guards moved forward, removing his helmet. Charlie recognized him. Shaw was a legend, the man who'd held the defense grid at Europa Station for 16 hours against impossible odds. Shaw here commanded my escort squadron at Kepler 442b. He raised the same concerns you did before we engaged. I overruled him. He followed orders but made sure to position recovery craft optimally in case I was wrong. The general's expression softened slightly. That's the relationship I need. Officers who think critically but act decisively. Officers who can tell me I'm wrong and still execute the mission flawlessly. General Thornridge pulled a data chip from his uniform pocket and placed it on Adeline's desk. This contains my actual tactical assessments from Kepler 442b, including the variables I considered and the psychological profiles of the enemy commanders. Study it. Then I want you to rerun your analysis and tell me if you still think I was just lucky. He started back up the stairs, then paused. Oh, and Cadet Martinez? The Coalition Strategic Command has a summer internship program. Your application is already approved. Report to Luna Station at the end of the semester. As the general and his guards exited, the auditorium erupted in barely suppressed whispers and exclamations. Adeline remained standing, staring at the data chip as if it might explode. Charlie finally exhaled the breath he'd been holding and made his way to his friend. You realize you just got personally recruited by the most important military officer in human space? Adeline looked up at him, and for the first time that day, her composure cracked into a stunned smile. I think I just argued with General Thornridge about his most famous battle. You didn't just argue with him, Charlie grinned. You made him come to campus to argue back. That's the most human thing I've ever seen. Professor Velcara approached, all 6 arms gesturing in what Charlie had learned was the Zenthari expression of bewildered respect. Miss Martinez, in 30 years of teaching, I have never seen anything like that. Humans, she clicked her mandibles thoughtfully, are truly a fascinating species. Adeline picked up the data chip, her analytical mind already racing through what secrets it might contain. She'd criticized a general's tactics and lived to tell about it. No, more than that, she'd been rewarded for it. That, Charlie thought as he watched his friend's eyes light up with renewed purpose, was exactly why humanity belonged among the stars. They didn't just fight bravely or die heroically. They questioned, they analyzed, they dared to tell even their heroes they could do better. And sometimes, just sometimes, their heroes agreed.